So first up, we're gonna sit down because it's gonna be a bit of a chat for sort of 10 or so minutes.
Where's the fireplace?
The fireplace.
Do we have hot chocolate?
We have wine. I mean, that's better than chocolate in my world.
No.
Champagne, wine.
Although it's kind of a hot chocolate day with the hailstorm.
That's true. That's true. So Hillorie, tell everybody who you work for, what the business does, and what your role at the company is.
Absolutely. You didn't say my full name. You just said Hillorie.
I know, but we've been chatting for so long now. We're best friends.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Hillorie FaracediVillaforesta.
By the way, she did that because she knows I can't say it.
Everyone at work calls me Fluffy. Instead of FDF, I'm like, just call me Fluffy. It's okay. So I'm the Director of Alliances at Dataiku. And how many of you have heard of Dataiku before? Yeah,
I was going to expect quite a lot of hands.
Okay, enterprise for AI. If you think of Dataiku, you think about AI. It's a big word. There are so many people that come to the booth when we're at a show. I need to do AI. Okay. Let's talk about what you really need to do in your day. So Dataiku is an end-to-end platform, ideally for enterprises, that really allows individuals of every technical capability, from coders that never get out of the back room to management, to be able to engage in AI projects from production to modeling, from modeling through to production, to work on projects that really accelerate the business, fraud detection, actually across industries. So I manage the Microsoft Alliance and work with Dataiku globally to help us get to that one-to-many platform with Dataiku. So hopefully that's kind of all over the place. But
cool. So
I think I would have failed if I was in the elevator with.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, and one of the founders said to Hillorie, "You be short and sharp, succinct. You've got to be able to do the elevator pitch." So
fail?
No, I think you did fine.
No,
did
it was
fine,
a champagne.
Right? Yeah, success.
Fun, right?
So Dataiku is Series C, $101 million, just closed in December.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of money.
That we're just starting.
But this is interesting, right? So a lot of founders, particularly when they first start out, think, I've got my seed funding, I've got my Series A, I'm on the way. You guys are obviously now a scaling company, rapidly scaling. $100 million sounds like a lot. But actually when you're scaling, because you're in multiple countries as well, right?
Absolutely.
It doesn't go very far, does it?
No, not at all. So
what does $100 million give you that you wouldn't have been able to do without that cash injection?
Validation and a baseline, I would say. So, and I come from the Bay Area, from Silicon Valley. So I'm used to hearing 500 million, 1 billion, 2 billion. So when I hear 100 million, I'm like, what? Okay, what do you want to do with that? Buy socks? But in all actuality,
some fancy socks you're buying.
In all reality, it really provides a foundation, and I'm really honored to work with the leadership team and the founders here. They really understand what it takes to grow a business from the ground up with virtually nothing, with self-funding, and I think the first round was like 46 million, which I think in the French tech or startup community is a significant amount. So getting to 101 million kind of gets our name on the board, but more importantly behind that allows the company to really think strategically about where they want to go and hire the right people, hire the teams, and it's been really great to see how they invest it and really invest in the people.
I'm going to ask you offline about the 101 million. Who put the 1 million in? We'll talk about that later.
Founder's sense of humor?
Founder's sense.
I'll take that 1 million.
Of course, you're always going to take it. It's just the randomness of 101. I love it. You are not one of the founders, right?
No.
So you joined as one of the sort of senior hires. What brought you into the vision of somebody else's company?
So I'm not going to date myself. However, I have been in tech since '97, and I spent 14 years with HPE and 4 years with NetApp, 6 years with VMware, and a few years with Splunk, primarily in alliances. And I think one of my most favorite roles was at HP managing the VMware OEM Alliance. And while I was there, also working on other alliances like Veeam. And I really liked that working in alliances kind of allowed me to manage a business within an organization. And as I looked at that, I thought, well, what do I want to bring to the table? What do I want to do? And I actually spoke with one of my coaches, which pearl of wisdom, I think it's good to have coaches for careers. That person said, well, what's missing is startup. You've brought a lot of smaller companies into larger companies. You understand scope and span. But why don't you take some time and go work for a startup and understand how a startup works and focuses on driving growth. So that kind of prompted me to look outside of the box and working for a larger organization. How I ended up at Dataiku is a completely different story, a fun one.
We'll keep going.
Keep going. How long do we have?
Well, I'm going to keep Anthony sort of honest here, and he's going to be our coach. So we've got plenty of time.
You got plenty of time?
Go for it.
So my mother's French. I married a French man. She was very excited about that. And and I set myself up in tech, as I think many of you know. It can be a burnout. I've seen a lot of people around me, for whatever reason, are not just burn out. And I didn't want to do that, and I thought, what does it need to take for me to be really balanced? And I figured that out, and every 7 years I take a year off. So that 7 years was about the time that we needed to make a decision, marriage-wise, to be in the US or France. And of course, my mother and my husband, France, and I said, okay, I'm going to France. So I was going to take that year off, and I have, that's another story, horses and a ranch in California, and I'm out and I'm busy and I'm in the Bay Area. So I come over without a job and my horses into a 50 square meter apartment in Paris. My husband's like, you are intolerable. Get a job. So funny enough, I was
I love
busy.
that.
So
I can just imagine you sort of pottering around this small space going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What do I do with myself?
Oh my gosh, I need my horse perfume. So I was on Glassdoor. I actually really like Glassdoor. They're pretty accurate with their descriptions. And I see this little company with a bird. I'm like, what is that? I start looking into the space. I'm like, wow, this is a space that really interests me. Let me check it out. And they had a role open for Director of Partnerships EMEA, which is something I probably would have done a long time ago. But I thought, well, you know what? How could this go wrong? It can't, no. I could be at a startup. It could go horribly wrong, and I will have made myself busy for the year. Or I'll try it. So I submitted my resume, and Kurt Mumel, I don't know if you know any of the data Ikers, but he called me back, and I literally started working within 2 weeks. I couldn't ask for a better company. I have never had so much fun in my career. And it's funny because I think another 10 years could pass now, and I probably wouldn't want to take the time off. But it was completely happenstance that this happened. And I actually really enjoy working in France with startups and being able to provide feedback and insight into some of the history or knowledge I've had in the Bay Area with other companies. So I kind of have taken more of a position of coaching and saying, hey, I'm here. There are, excuse the expression, 30 ways to skin a cat. You don't need to do it just one way. What are your goals? What do we want to do as a company? Okay, we can look to build it out and scale it out this way. And it's been great working with Dataiku because they have obviously other friends that are founders, and they've brought them in and said, hey, Hillorie, you want to catch up with them? And I love it. I absolutely love it. So long-winded answer, but there you go.
A great answer, though, because it just shows that really it's about that, sort of getting deep into it and just being fascinated and curious, and just you truly feel like you're learning every day.
Yeah.
The other thing, so Hillorie and I caught up earlier today, and she touched on the fact that she has horses. Do you want to share
bad habit?
The
kids
other
like horses,
thing? So
run.
one of the things that I see a lot with founders is this concept of burnout, and Hillorie mentioned it earlier, and she's figured out. So for me, by the way, it's walking my dog. If I don't go on a walk with my dog every 2 or 3 days, by the way, I'm on day 4 of not seeing my dog, so just watch out.
We're going for a walk tomorrow.
We're going to go for a walk tomorrow. It's going to be fine. I'm just going to accost people with their dogs whilst I'm out. It's my way of decompressing and giving my brain a break. Yours is horses, right?
Yep, absolutely. So it's interesting because if anyone were to ask me who I owe my greatest ode to something or level of knowledge, it'd be my horses. They have given me so much of a sense of self, humility, understanding leadership. You can't tell a horse. You've got to reverse psychology completely. So taking that approach, how others may view you. I might have a really busy day at the office and I have just had a stinky attitude. And I go out to the field and they're like, oh no, turn around and walk away. So all of these are very simple things, but they really provided me insight and balance to understand, develop, and grow myself. And in addition to that, they allowed me an escape, a healthy one. I could jump on my horse's back and go ride 50 miles for the evening, and the next day just comes new. So I encourage everyone, whatever their passion is. Maybe it's building model airplanes, I don't know. Who knows? But whatever it is, do something radically different that just helps you exit from your day, and don't forget to do it. Because you know what? The next day is going to come. It's not all that urgent. Well, some things are urgent, but just step back, relax, and get into yourself. And horses help me.
Whatever your thing is, it could be singing, it
Yeah.
could be painting, it could be playing
Karaoke,
video
yeah.
games. It doesn't matter what it is, but just make sure you do it.
Have a thing.
Always have a thing.
Yeah.
All right, couple of more practical questions around sort of how you approach business or how Data IQ approaches business. So we mentioned earlier that Data IQ's now gone into multiple markets. That proves or that brings extra challenges as well as obviously exciting expansion plans, which is fabulous. How on earth does this business work in terms of making sure that the whole of these different teams in different cities and different locations, where do you get the cohesiveness from? How do you make sure that you build that into the company DNA?
The founders, all four of them are incredible human beings. And I think what they put first and foremost are the people in the organization. I truly mean that. Coming from other organizations, I hear that. You hear it from HR. You get that thing on the wall that says, we love our people. And then you feel it completely differently. So I think that the founders hear their people. And as we scale, I think there's some sort of magic sauce that they look for in hiring people. They say you hear hire the best. Well, what does the best mean? There's some sort of innate characteristics that the founders have looked for originally and have kind of distilled that down into the hiring managers that has really allowed us to retain a corporate culture, and its communication, its collaboration, its positivity. You can have an A player who is great on paper, but they're just not a team player, maybe not the right, you just don't want to have them on a team. They've been able to kind of discern that and go for, is this person going to fit within this organization? And does this person communicate? How do they work? And kind of repeat that even as we scale. And they also are very good about structuring leadership, and not leadership to lead, but leadership to support, and leadership to be there to be able to hear the teams and hear the people across, and then go back and kind of consolidate those feedbacks.
It's important to build that company culture, and from day one, though, isn't it? It's not something that you can kind of, as we've seen from some other companies, say, I don't know, WeWork, Uber.
Yeah.
You can't retrofit it in, kids. You've got to put it in there from day one.
There are standard and non-standard growing pains, and I think it's hard to normalize those. I think that Data IQ has done an incredible job and continues to do a kind of a gut check and normalizing on what's good. And at the end of the day, it's humans, it's people.
So back to your fascination with AI. We were talking earlier about some of the challenges that come along with new technology, new space, very exciting, but with that comes perhaps some issues and some bad stuff. So let's talk about ethics for a little while.
Oh boy, that's a big one.
How long has everyone got, by the way? I'm just checking now. I mean, we're busy. But from an ethics perspective, what do you think are some of the bigger issues that as a as a technology community that we need to start thinking more about or need to care about more?
Well, I think that ethics is paramount, and it's less platform, country, or industry specific, and we're moving to a time of truly globalization at the human level, from everything that we see going on with governments through to the large players in the industry and how they use AI, how they want it perceived, how Facebook and platforms operate. And we'd like to think that everyone is good. That they're all a player. But unfortunately, there are some characters that are probably suboptimal and may have alternate realities. And how do we make sure that those are kept in a box, per se? And I think that we need to figure out, as a global community of leadership and organizations like Microsoft and Facebook, as well as governments, how to standardize on global policies and global boundaries. And I don't want to say boundaries, global norms. I say global norms and ethics. And I think at the end of the day, when I sit down with human beings of every religion, every country, we're all pretty similar. We know what's generally on board and not. How do we up-level that through to organizations, corporations, and governments? So I'd say overall, whether we have a current organization and we start to up-level that or create a new one, we need to think as one across the planet, if that makes sense.
That's a big-ass problem, isn't it?
That's a big one.
Yeah. And then one of the other things that's sort of bubbling under at the moment, I'm not sure whether folks in the audience have seen this, Apple Card. The algorithm's broken, right? A guy can get significantly more credit on Apple Card even though his partner, who has obviously the same access to the same wealth, will not get the same. So clearly the algorithm has been built incorrectly. We don't have enough women in positions to, or other underrepresented groups in these roles to be able to program the things that are powering our future. Do you think AI has the same issue?
Oh my, that's a loaded question.
I did it deliberately.
Oh, you just blindsided me. I think any algorithm. How do you check algorithms to the point where there's a 0.000001 failure rate? I think that's going to be difficult. I think that the more we have individuals from every background, every gender looking at it, they provide different approaches, and the more minds we have looking at constants and variables, I think the less margin of error we'll see. And hopefully that's not too general, but if you only have a group of 5 working on something and that's it, and they're going to take it to market, hey, you know what? That might go sideways. But how do we work together to cross-check each other and have different human beings, men, women, whatever you identify with, looking at that and bringing your perspective to help cross-check that fabric? And I don't want to say blockchain-ish, but I didn't say blockchain at all, but kind of pervasive fabric.
I did give her a curveball question there, by the way. She wasn't prepared for that.
No.
All right, here's the one that... You did perfectly well, thank you, darling. Final question, which is one that we spoke about, don't worry. We want to make sure that this is a super practical session and that people walk out of here at least kind of going, yeah, okay, I can see how I can apply that. So what would be your few words of advice, 2 or 3 things that you think everybody in the room could, just if they were either they work for a startup or they perhaps want to become a founder and they have a passion that they want to follow, what would your words of advice be for founders in the room?
Okay, this sounds really simplistic. I say this to myself every day, every week, every year. What's my point? Why am I doing? What's my point? And if I were to back into that with my career or with horses or as a founder, I would consistently and continually ask myself that question and gut check, and also have a community or set of assets, people or knowledge bases to do those gut checks and constantly kind of get that sounding and feedback. And for founders and for companies, what are you bringing to the table? Ask yourself that. What are you bringing to the table? And it's not, oh, great, I want to be a founder. I want to bring something to market. What is the value to customers? What are you helping other people solve? What are the pain points? Kind of reverse engineering. Be super aware of what's in the market and what you're bringing to market and what your focus is. And again, it sounds so simple. What's your point?
It's a great thing, though, because we were talking about this earlier as well, back to the kind of elevator question, can you say something really succinctly in a sentence that explains who you are and what you do? And my version of that is the mum test. If you can explain to somebody who perhaps isn't of your technical world who you are and what you do, so this is my version of it, if I can explain it to my mum in a sentence and she understands it, then I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, have that elevator pitch, have that passion, feel it in your gut. And again, I know it's so, my mother's like, my gosh, that's just so blunt, Hillorie. I'm like, well, what's your point? That sounds like, no, just like listen to the words. So that's definitely.
Do we have time for Q&A, Anthony, or are we going to roll straight into the next one?
Rolling.
We're rolling. All right. Thank you, Hillorie. Say thank you, everybody.
Thank you.